Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 1331 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 1331. Enjoy.
Social justice. It's the effect of systemic progress. It's not about this moment, it's about every moment. It's not about immediate change, it's about constant momentum. Saybrook University has been doing the work since 1971, educating inquisitive, informed, and inspired leaders to change the world for the better. Learn more at saybrook.edu.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's going on, folks? So for the next 2 days, today and Christmas, there will only be one new episode. There will be flashback episodes in lieu of the morning update or the daily drop, but I have so much to do these next 2 days. Well, really, so much to do today. Tomorrow, when I say I have a lot to do, that means being fat, laying around, and eating food. But today, I still have to finish my Christmas shopping because, as you all know, I am the king of procrastination. So there will only be the morning update today, and then tomorrow, I'm not sure if it'll be a morning update or a daily drop. But either way, in the morning, there'll be a flashback episode or the morning update or vice versa. So that's what we're looking at for the next couple of days. It might be like that for the next, few days, depending on where the news takes us. If there is stuff that we need to get to, obviously I'll get right into it. I'll go to the studio and we'll dig right in. But I don't suspect that there'll be too much earth-shattering news over the holiday here. So we'll see where we're at, but there'll be at least one new episode every single day like usual. And if there's, news that needs to be shared, then we'll jump right back into 2. But for the next 2 days for sure, there will only be one new episode. I wasn't too sure yesterday if I was going to be able to do 2 today, so I didn't want to, jump the gun and say that I wouldn't be able to pump out 2 today, but it's certainly not looking like that. And tomorrow for Christmas, obviously, definitely only one coming your way. Now, most people are taking the holidays off and you're getting best ofs, the whole week. Not me. No days off. Why? Well, because this story is always growing. It's always moving. It's always morphing. And I feel like if we miss even a day, we're going to be way too behind. So every single day, at least one time a day, we will be here with a brand new episode. All right, so I'm going to keep the whinging to a minimum in this monologue here, and we're going to jump right into the article. Today we're going to talk about the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, a.k.a. Prince Andrew, and the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, well, they were guests of honor in 2000 at the Dance of the Decades. Now, this is all known to us. We've talked about this at length. But now, the Daily Mail has found a souvenir program that contains their names and names of other guests, as well as testimony from some of the people that were present at this event. So let's dive into this article from the Daily Mail and let's see what they have uncovered. Exclusive. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's place of honor as Prince Andrew's special guests at the 2000 Royal Dance of the Decades Ball in Windsor Castle is revealed in a souvenir program. This article was authored by Ryan Parry and Hugo Daniel. Surrounded by royalty and aristocracy for Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, it was an invitation that cemented them at the heart of the establishment. Look, there's no doubt. The legitimacy by being friends with Andrew, by being friends with Bill Clinton, by being friends with Donald Trump, offered Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein the vehicle that they needed to travel the roads to get themselves to become part of so-called polite society. It would not have been possible without the co-signing of people like the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. And that's why I am so fired up about these enablers. That's why I'm not going to let them get off the hook. All of these people that enabled Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell should be put on blast. The pedophile and his alleged accomplice, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scuzzbag and bipedal serpent, attended the royal family's Dance of the Decades at Windsor Castle as special guests of Prince Andrew on June 21st of 2000. Now, remember Prince Andrew during the interview with Emily Maitlis, he tried to say, well, I really invited Ghislaine, and she had Jeffrey Epstein as her plus one, in a pathetic attempt to excuse this. As if Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't as bad as Jeffrey Epstein. As if Ghislaine Maxwell isn't as much as a scuzzbag. So that's who you're going to point at and say, oh, well, I just invited Ghislaine, so I mean, how can you look at me funny? Talk about opening your mouth and inserting both of your feet. DailyMail.com has unearthed a souvenir booklet from the party which lists them among the star-studded guests invited to celebrate 4 landmark royal birthdays: the Duke of York's 40th, the 100th birthday of the Queen Mother, Princess Margaret's 70th, and the 50th of Princess Anne. Now think about how significant of an event this is. All of these blood royals at this Dance of the Decade, celebrating all of these important birthdays, and of all the people that Prince Andrew could invite to be his guests, he invites the bipedal serpent and Jeffrey Epstein. Why in the world, when there are so many other people that you could bring to an event like this, why would you bring Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? And remember, nothing just happens by circumstance here, or nothing just happens by coincidence here. What is the reason behind Prince Andrew inviting Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein to an event like this? The never-before-seen official program for the evening is a stark visual reminder of how close Epstein got to the royal family in a scandal that has rocked the British monarchy and continues to dog the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. Yeah, you know what? Maybe the public does need a refresher course. Maybe the public does need a refresher course about who these people are, about the kind of people they associate with, about the sort of folks that they allow into their circles. There's never a vetting process, right? Everybody knows about these kind of people, what they're up to, at the very least whispers. You mean to tell me the security team around Prince Andrew had no idea? All of these ex-MI5, MI6 agents, SAS agents had no idea, huh? So what you're trying to tell me is they're not good at their job, that they don't know how to protect their charge. They don't know how to protect their prince. That's what you want me to believe? Or did the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family simply shrug his shoulders when those reports came across his table? Who knows, right? But we know that this is a what can you do for me kind of world that these people live in. And we know that Prince Andrew, while he offered a vehicle into so-called polite society, on the flip side, Epstein offered him a huge bankroll, a way to satiate his proclivities, and access to other rich people. And we know that Andrew, if not anything, was a grifter. And he's the kind of guy that is going to spend other people's money at a fast, hot clip. Just ask the British taxpayers. So it was definitely a quid pro quo situation. I do for you, you do for me. I have a bunch of money, you have access to these people. Let's get in bed. So in this article, there's a list of people that were at the event as well. So when you click on the link, you could check it out. But Jeffrey Epstein's name is right between Contessa Marina Emo's name and Miss Christina Estrada's name. So his name is here on the list of the program of the invited guests. And then when you scroll down a little bit, you have Mr. and Mrs. Charles Matthias, followed by Miss Ghislaine Maxwell, and then Mr. and Miss Alexander McEwen. So again, you can go through this list and check out some of these names. I'm not too familiar with royalty in England. Some of you out there who are from the UK are much better versed in knowing who these players are than I am. They all just look like a bunch of, aristocrats or something to me. So I'm not too sure who they all are, but we all know that you're going to be the who's who, the cream of the crop of so-called polite society if you're getting invited to this huge gala. The U.S. Department of Justice has publicly said they would like to question the Duke over his links to the billionaire, pedophile, and the under-fire prince has stepped down from royal duties. And remember, it's not just over Epstein now. We know that authorities in Paris would like to have a little chat with this knucklehead as well. The ball was just a year after Andrew first met Epstein, and while the financier, pedophile, allegedly with Maxwell's help, was trafficking and sexually abusing underage girls. So when Andrew would go to Epstein's house, and he'd be hanging out at all of these properties, and these youngish girls would be coming in, right? He didn't think anything was goofy about that. He didn't think that there was something funky going on, and Epstein never talked to him about, quote-unquote, paying for massages or anything like that. I'm sure they never chatted about anything like that. All of their talks were wholesome, and they just they were based around finances and stuff like that. I'm sure that's exactly what occurred. That's what you would have us believe about Prince Andrew, huh? Even though we know that the public profile says otherwise. Even though we know that he had a gas with a puppet that was made in his likeness, as he used the puppet to basically assault somebody. This guy is an absolute and utter buffoon. He hasn't come out and spoken with authorities because he knows better. Epstein and Maxwell are named separately on the list, despite the fact Prince Andrew last year claimed Epstein was only invited as Maxwell's plus one in his infamous BBC Newsnight interview. Another lie. That interview was just rife with lies, folks, and I'll just straight out say it. Now that all of the receipts are coming out, now that we have all of this other evidence that's coming out, it's quite obvious that this dude has been lying through his teeth from the very beginning, not only about his relationship with Epstein and Maxwell, but about his relationship with Virginia. I have seen not one scintilla of evidence produced by Prince Andrew or his team that would lead me to believe that Virginia is lying and he is telling the truth. In fact, it's been the polar opposite. How many more receipts are needed to put Andrew at the scene of the crime, folks? Isn't that enough for probable cause and a real investigation? That's all I'm calling for here. I don't know about anybody else. I don't speak for anybody else, and there ain't a soul on this planet who speaks for me. So I'm calling for a real investigation, just like with anybody else. Not calling for tar and feathering, none of that jazz. I want these people to be treated like anybody else, no more, no less. And until that happens, and until all of these so-called elite are treated the same way as you or I would be treated, I will be right here railing about it. According to Maxwell, she and Epstein dated in the 90s, but that's as far as it went. In a frank exchange about the ball on the BBC show, presenter Emily Maitlis said to the Duke, in 2000, Epstein was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation. No doubt about that, right? These are Andrew's friends. He brought them over. He's the one that has to answer for it. It's like if you had some badass friends when you were younger and you brought them to your house and they stole some shit from your parents. Well, who's going to have to answer for it? Well, you can't say, well, it's not my fault. Hell yeah, it's your fault. You brought them here, right? You didn't vet your friends better? You didn't know what kind of people you were bringing into my home? Andrew replied, but certainly at my invitation. Not at the royal family's invitation, but remember that it was his girlfriend that was the key element in this. He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent in that aspect. No, he wasn't, okay? He had an invite, Ghislaine had an invite, all of them had invites from Prince Andrew, and you, being a member of the royal family, are a representative of the royal family. So that invite from you, by proxy, is an invite from the Queen herself. I mean, does some guy who was educated in public school really have to explain this to a prince of the blood? I mean, are you kidding me right now? Instead of acting like a jackass your whole life, maybe you should have paid attention in school a little bit more. Later in 2000, Andrew hosted Epstein and Maxwell at Sandringham for what he has described as a straightforward shooting weekend. And in March, the following year, Epstein's alleged sex slave, Virginia Roberts, claims she was forced to sleep with Andrew for the first time when she was 17 in Maxwell's London townhouse, an allegation the Duke has categorically denied. Yeah, well, you have all the denials you want, right? Have all the denials you want. But unless you can back those denials up with evidence, in light of what the circumstantial evidence against you says, then words are wind, and nobody wants to hear what you have to say anymore. At this point, it's put up or shut up, Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. Musician Graham Dalby was at the Dance of the Decades playing with his swing band, the Gramophones, and today shares his recollections of the evening. Dalby, 63, recalled how the Queen was in great form at the royal ball, dancing with several of her guests. Well, it was the year 2000, right? 20 years ago. Queen was a little bit younger, probably a bit more mobile. I could see her getting up, doing a couple twirls or whatever, whatever they do at these royal balls. He said, she was on such great form. The dancing was actually being fronted and being led by the Queen. I've never seen the Queen so animated. She had a really lovely smile on her face, and she was wearing a lovely powder blue dress, and she was looking absolutely stunning. She was just grabbing people and pulling them onto the dance floor. She nearly grabbed me, and I thought, don't grab me, I can't dance. And she got the man next to me, and he couldn't dance either. Yeah, that would be me too. I'd be like, oh man, please do not let me be the one who gets yanked up here to have to dance in front of everybody. I would have done the robot or something ridiculous. Maybe break out into the Running Man. Asked if it is possible Epstein could have danced with the British monarch, he said, yes, quite easily. She was just grabbing people every time there was a new dance. Wow. Imagine that. Imagine if it comes out that the Queen of England was doing the merengue with Jeffrey Epstein throughout the ballroom. That they were doing the line dance to Cotton Eye Joe in the ballroom. Talk about explosive. Talk about radioactive. All because this idiot of a son of hers brings these two people into the very heart of the British monarchy. However, he also doesn't recall Andrew being on the dance floor, adding, "Andrew's not a dancer, so him and Epstein, would have been in a corner with a drink talking, I suspect." Yeah, well, who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there. That could be it. I'm sure that they did conversate, and I'm sure that the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family was bouncing around like a social butterfly, buttering people up. That's his nature. He's always trying to find a way to get an extra flight to a new golf game on your private jet. So, I could see this guy bouncing around the room, but there's no doubt that Jeffrey was his special friend. "Dalby is sure the Queen would have met the friends her son invited," he said. "Oh, yes, and she would have made it her business to know who everybody was. I mean, she knew who I was. So she knew who the band member was, right? The guy who leads the band. But she doesn't know who Epstein is or Ghislaine Maxwell. Again, I don't buy it. And the security forces that were in charge with doing this vetting, I am almost positive they're not as bad at their job as it would seem here. I mean, is it possible that they're really this bad at their job and they just don't vet anybody? If that's the case, then the royal family's in imminent danger and they need to find new security forces. Epstein was not arrested for child sex trafficking until 2006. So was an unremarkable guest who would have raised few eyebrows in 2000. He wasn't arrested then, there is no doubt about that. But again, everybody knew what this guy was up to. Everybody knew that he was engaging in some very odd proclivities. And what do you think? He wasn't upfront about it with his really good friends? He didn't tell them the deal before he offered them to take part? Give me a break. Dalby said, "I wouldn't have known who Epstein was. He wasn't known. I mean, I recognized all sorts of famous people in amongst all the titles. Jackie Stewart, the racing driver, was there, but certainly that's not a man I would have gone, there's Jeffrey Epstein, because he meant nothing to me." And I get that, right? He wasn't in the news then. I don't expect the general public to know who he is. I don't expect a band leader to know who he is. But I damn well expect the security forces for the prince to know who he is. And I damn well expect the Queen's people to step in and stop these people from coming around. You would think that in their capacity as guarding the royal family, that guarding their reputation would also be high on the list. The next day, Andrew was pictured at Ascot, just 7 miles from Windsor Castle, with Epstein and Maxwell. It is not known if they stayed at the castle, although according to the booklet, guests could get coaches back to Buckingham Palace at 12:30 a.m., 1:30 a.m., and 2:30 a.m. I'm guessing that they probably stayed there, right? I mean, I don't have any evidence of that, but why wouldn't they? They were very close to Prince Andrew. If they had the rooms on the estate or the palace for them to stay, who wouldn't want to stay at a palace? That's a story you go home and tell your people, right? Bro, you have no idea. I was a guest of the Queen of England. Man, come on, stop it. No, I'm not kidding you. The real Queen of England, boys. Right? That's a conversation starter for most people. So you would think that he'd want to stay at this palace, and you would think that Andrew would be very receptive of that. Alongside dozens of royals from across the world, celebrities who attended the party included jockey Richard Dunwoody, Lord and Lady Palumbo, Cleo Lane, and John Dankworth, Sophie Anderton, and golfers Nick Faldo and Colin Montgomery. John Dankworth? Dude should get in the pot business, name like that. Another person on the guest list with a link to Epstein, this is someone that we definitely do know here on the podcast, was Dr. Melanie Walker, a mutual friend of Andrew and the financier, pedophile, who worked for a time as Epstein's science advisor. The plot thickens. Now, remember the neurosurgeon, the adventure in New Mexico, the horny herb tea, all of that jazz? Yep, that's who we're talking about here. That very same person. The American neurosurgeon, who attended the ball with her partner, Dr. Steven Sinofsky, met Andrew in 1999, the same year he met Epstein, and once claimed she and the Duke were so chummy he would playfully call her dork and smarty pants. Imagine this idiot trying to be witty with you and be cute and flirt. Oh, you're a dork. Smarty pants. Talk about gag reflexes occurring. This goofy-looking SOB. Dr. Walker first met Epstein in 1992 after he said he could get her an audition for a Victoria's Secret modeling job and was hired as his science advisor from 1998 to 1999. What in the hell does Jeffrey Epstein need a science advisor for? What is this dude running around in a lab coat, looking at slides under a microscope? This dude is the very definition of a faker. As they would call him in the hood, instead of a gangster, this dude is a wankster. An absolute fake. A science advisor, more like somebody around that he could dictate things to, make them hang out with people like Andrew down in Zorro Ranch. If that's what he means by science advisor, then okay. But science advisor for Jeffrey Epstein? What's next? You know what? That's it. I need an astrophysics advisor for the podcast from now on. It's so ludicrous. It's just so dumb. These people are such morons. She later worked as a senior program officer at the Bill Gates Foundation. With the New York Times reporting, she became an intermediary between Gates and Epstein, whose interactions have come under scrutiny. I mean, does it shock anybody that all of these people are connected? And we haven't really dug into Bill Gates lately here, but we've talked about him previously on the show. Perhaps it's time to revisit the relationship between Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein. Might be the proper time for us to go down that avenue. And also, she should have to give a statement under oath. She should be subpoenaed, and she should have to give a statement under oath about her relationship with Andrew and Epstein. The A5 program booklet says the reception and dance took place in the castle's state apartments, and breakfast was served at 11:30 p.m. in St. George's Hall, the grand reception room, and the guard chamber. It says bars were also situated in all three of those rooms and in the King Charles II's dining room. As well as naming all the guests, it also included a plan of the state apartments so guests could find their way around. Oh yeah, they stayed here. Come on. I'm going to need to see proof that they stayed somewhere else at this point, because there's no way that they would come all of this way and then what? They're going to the Four Seasons down the block? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. This is akin to coming to America and staying in the Lincoln Memorial, right? The Lincoln bedroom, I mean. Dalby said, "There was just a pile of them by the doorway, so I thought, that's a nice souvenir. I'll take one. It was just a little thing for guests to have so they could see who else was at the party. It has the program for the evening, a plan of the state apartment so you could find your way around, and bands playing, and what time breakfast will be served, and stuff like that." You see how this stuff all comes back to haunt these people? The littlest thing that you would think is insignificant, like a program from the event, has come back to cause ripples. According to Hello magazine, who ran paparazzi shots of people arriving, the 800 or so guests enjoyed drinks and canapes served by 300 domestic staff in full outfits. It also reported how the royal tradition of a cooked breakfast was not overlooked, and from 11:30 a.m. until 2 a.m., guests enjoyed scrambled eggs, sausages, bacon, black pudding, kedgeree, toast, coffee, and orange juice. Well, isn't that nice? Isn't that fancy? Actually sounds like the stuff I had while I was camping the other day, in fact. I mean, no black pudding, obviously, or kedgeree or whatever the hell that is, but the rest of that stuff sounds like a camp breakfast for me, so. Dalby recalls, "It was a huge party, but it was incredible insofar as practically every member of every royal family in the world was there. It was quite extraordinary. Think about the access Epstein had to all of these people at this event, just when things were getting started for him. Just when he was raising up off of the runway and taking off on his crime spree. Think about all of these people in one spot for him to move in on. I think I had Kedgeree at one in the morning. It was quite good. It was a great party. I spent the whole night drinking the Queen's champagne. I mean, what could have been better than that? Also providing music was the Lester Lannan Orchestra, a favorite act of the Queen Mother, who the royals flew in from the U.S., Dalby said. Dalby and his band also played at the royals' previous Dance of the Decade party held in 1990 at Buckingham Palace. Dalby said that his band landed the prestigious gigs after being spotted by Princess Margaret at a party for the Duke and Duchess of Devonshire at Chatsworth House some years earlier. Princess Margaret came up with her whiskey in her hand and said, "I think you're absolutely marvelous, and I'm going to tell my sister the Queen all about you," he recalls. So can you imagine? Queen Margaret comes tottering up with her whiskey in her hand, stumbling around, 2 sheets to the wind. "Oh, your band's really good. I'm going to tell my sister about you so you'll play the other events." That's a story you'd remember, huh? Dalby was also introduced to Andrew by the actor Anthony Andrews at the 1990 party, but he remembers the prince was distracted at the time and was dismissive of him, in contrast to his sister Anne, who at the same party came up to him and gave him a slap between the shoulder blades to say, "Well done on his performance." He added, "She's a fantastic lady." Dalby didn't interact with Andrew at the ball in 2000. So imagine this guy, right? He's a band member, runs a band. He's hanging out. Show's over. The princess comes over and gives him a little slap between the shoulder blades and tells him he did a good job. Definitely must be a cool feeling, right? As a performer, you're being brought in for the royals, blah, 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 blah. And then one of them comes up and gives you your props. Must be a great feeling for that guy, right? The 2000 party was notable as the first time Andrew's wife, Sarah Ferguson, also a friend of Epstein's, had been brought back into the family fold after years of exile. I don't know anything about the exile situation or anything about Andrew and Fergie's marriage, really. If it's not Epstein related, I haven't really dug into it from the royal standpoint. Dalby from Trowbridge, Wiltshire in England said, "The fact that Fergie was there was amazing. She was very high profile at Buckingham Palace in 1990, and so was Diana. Of course, Diana had gone by that time, so she was kind of on her own and had to be on her best behavior. So she was very low profile, I'd say. I did see her, but she wasn't dancing or anything like that, whereas at the previous party in 1990, she'd been a right party animal, and she and Diana pretty much occupied the dance floor from the word go." I could see Diana getting out on the dance floor and getting it in. I mean, from the little bit I know about her, she seemed like a pretty pleasant lady, the kind of person who had a good soul and would have been a fantastic wife and queen for the King of England. Sarah Ferguson, on the other hand, who the hell would want to see this lady dance anywhere? Dalby's band played the guests in on arrival, and he remembers playing some royal favorites, he said. "We played A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. That was the Queen Mother's favorite. And we also played Night and Day, because that was Princess Margaret's favorite. The Duke of Edinburgh was dancing with some rather attractive brunette and was trying to tell her funny stories, or keep her amused whilst dancing. At the end of the dancing, the Duke walked right up to the stage and just said right up to my face, 'Can't hear yourself thinking here.' He just meant the band was too loud and he was trying to talk. In other words, he was trying to spit game to this brunette, and since the music was so loud, it was falling on deaf ears. Pun totally intended. Graham said he changed his band's name from the Gramophones to the London Swing Orchestra for the Olympics in 2012. He still runs the band and is also director of music for the Trowbridge Philharmonic Choir and the Choir of the Western Wind. 6 years after the 2000 ball, Epstein and Maxwell were still very much in the royal fold, and the pair were back at Windsor Castle as guests for Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday, where they were pictured in fancy dress alongside disgraced film mogul Harvey Weinstein. Can you get more scum and villainy in one picture than we saw with those idiots together? And again, I don't know about you guys, but I don't even know one person that's sick like this. It sure seems like every pedophile, every sicko in the world is hanging out with Andrew. Nygaard, Weinstein, Epstein, Maxwell. I mean, come on, at some point, you have to say to yourself, what the hell's the common denominator here? The Queen and Duke of Edinburgh did not attend the 2006 ball, where Beatrice wore a 10,000-pound gown created by Fergie's friend and Weinstein's future wife, Georgina Chapman. Yikes. Imagine being Georgina Chapman. First and foremost, you have to lay with Harvey Weinstein. Disgusting-ass, gross-ass Harvey Weinstein. Not enough money in the whole entire world. Okay? Second, you have to live now with the disgrace of what he did to these women. What was he doing to women while he was with you? Just an absolute shit show all the way around. By the time of Beatrice's party, U.S. police had issued an arrest warrant for Epstein and had already raided his Florida mansion. Andrew has denied having any knowledge of the probe into his friend at the time and continues to deny any wrongdoing. So the police had already raided Epstein's, everything was known and out there, and he was still at Beatrice's birthday party. Why do you think that is? Because he had his finger on Andrew, right? It wasn't because they were best friends. Give me a break already. Oh, they were friends, no doubt, but not the kind of friends that you and I would be familiar with. Maxwell, 58, currently faces trial over criminal sex trafficking charges in New York, having been accused of procuring girls as young as 14 for Epstein to abuse. The former British socialite, co-conspirator, general all-around scuzzbag, fellow child abuser, and bipedal serpent, has pleaded not guilty and has also denied any wrongdoing. The probe into Epstein in 2005 started when a woman from West Palm Beach claimed her 14-year-old daughter had been lured to the mansion and ordered to strip to her underwear while she massaged Epstein. The financier, pedophile, ultimately pleaded guilty to a single charge of soliciting an underage prostitute under a sweetheart deal that saw him serve just 13 months in prison and required him to register as a sex offender. It's disgusting that was even a law. Underage prostitution. Give me a break. So gross. Everything resurfaced in 2018 when the Miami Herald published a report about the plea deal, sparking an onslaught of allegations that led to Epstein being charged again in the summer of 2019. He died by apparent suicide in Manhattan jail cell on August 10th, 2019, while awaiting trial. Well, again, it's like a chia pet, this whole story. Pour a little water on it, and it starts to grow some hair. That's where we're at. That's where we find ourselves on this Christmas Eve. The evidence is mounting against Prince Andrew, the rest of the co-conspirators, Ghislaine Maxwell, rotting in a jail cell, Jean-Luc Brunel, also rotting in a jail cell, Jeffrey Epstein, rotting underground. All that's next for the prosecution to do is swoop up the rest of these co-conspirators and then slap them all with RICO. I think that would be the perfect Christmas gift for the lot of them. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. Thanks to everybody who has donated to the podcast and to everybody who supports it by sharing it and sitting here and giving me, again, your most precious commodity, which is your life minutes. I most certainly appreciate it and most certainly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that when you go to bed tonight and you wake up in the morning, that old fat bastard from the North Pole has left you all a bunch of gifts, everything that you could have ever wanted. All right, everybody, I hope you all have a great Christmas Eve. I will be back tomorrow with one new episode. There will be a flashback or two tonight, and we'll pick up where we left off tomorrow. Enjoy yourself, everybody, and happy holidays.
Social justice. It's the effect of systemic progress. It's not about this moment. It's about every moment. It's not about immediate change. It's about constant momentum. Saybrook University has been doing the work since 1971, educating inquisitive, informed, and inspired leaders to change the world for the better. Learn more at saybrook.edu.
Rogue Nicotine on demand, delivered direct to your door. Available in all your favorite flavors and formats: pouches, gum, wintergreen, peppermint, and more. From your Monday morning coffee to watching hoops to dinner at the in-laws, Rogue Nicotine is there for you when you need it. Visit roguenicotine.com today and save 10% when you place your order for sugar-free, fast-acting Rogue Nicotine. Underage sales prohibited. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. For more information, visit roguenicotine.com.